Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the live stream this week. Once again, I have to apologize for my nose. For those of you who aren't aware of this, I've had a small operation on my nose. Actually, last week it looked a lot worse. The bandage was much bigger. I'm happy to say that this morning, actually, I went back to the doctors, had some stitches taken out, and this is a relatively small plaster on my nose as a result of that. Actually, next Wednesday they'll take the plaster off completely, all being well, and so I'll be back to my usual beautiful self, albeit with somewhat of a scar on my nose. Before we start the live stream, I've been given some advice by my video team, and actually they're quite right about this. They've been watching all of the live streams that I do, and they pointed out that it's only 5 to 10 minutes into the live stream that I have a reasonable audience of, say, 10 to 15 people or more. And yet on previous live streams, I was starting in the actual course part of the live stream pretty much right from the get-go. And so a lot of people would miss the sort of juicy information. So what I'm going to do is waffle on for a few minutes until more people have joined, although I noticed we're already at 31, so that's a pretty good number. And then I'll start the part of the course in a moment. As you know, the Breaking into Yacht Brokerage live stream course is finished. We did the last episode last week. If you're watching this and you haven't seen it, they're all on my YouTube channel. All of the Breaking into Brokerage live streams are left on the channel, so you can tune into that at a later date. And these new live streams are going to be called Broker Talk, and they're all about topics that are of interest to brokers. Today we'll be looking at the central agency agreement, and I'll be talking for just 5 to 10 minutes about that. In a future one, I want to talk about the contracts of selling a yacht. And then I'm hoping that after that, I'll be in Monaco and I'll be able to introduce a colleague of mine who's a very young broker, and you'll be able to talk to him in a future weeks to ask how he became a broker, what the challenges are, and he'll be able to have some sort of interaction with you then. I see that we've already got 38 people on the live stream. That's fantastic, and that's a lot quicker than I thought. I'll just give a few shout outs, especially to Rudy Degels, who's I think has been on every single live stream from Belgium. Good to have you back. We've got Team Builds, Svetlin Karazov, who also has been on other live streams. Chris Holmes, hi from Yorkshire. I'm pretty sure that that's a familiar name too, as is Mera Cook, Gabriel Zoanos, Emanuele Di Mari, who's a big character in yachting himself. Always good to have you here, Emanuele. And just I'll say one other before I get into the actual meat of the live stream, and that's Gabriel Zoanos, who says, unfortunately, I missed the previous live. The question before that, I also left at the comments of that video in more extended, the controversy of working with a percentage while on the side of the buyer. Could you quickly comment on that? What I'll quickly do is make a note of it, because the actual meat of this live stream will only be 5 or 10 minutes. So if you can hang on 5 or 10 minutes, Gabrielle, make a note of it. Commission when you work for the buyer. And I'll give you a proper answer in a few moments on that. Remind me if I don't, because I have a memory like a goldfish. It lasts like 2 seconds. A quick bit of housekeeping. I'm going to speak for 5-10 minutes about something regarding brokerage with the hope of giving some information that can be of interest to you. At the end of that, you're welcome to ask whatever questions you want. If it's relevant to what I've been talking about, that's great. If it's not a problem. Super chats is very welcome. And when I get a super chat, of course, I'll do my best to give the most thorough answer that I possibly can for super chat questions. That said, let me tell you a little bit about the central agency contract for a yacht. And if you're watching these videos because you'd like to be a yacht broker, the central agency will be like your bread and butter. It's an important contract to understand. As I said last week, there are really 2 aspects of being a yacht broker. One is representing a buyer who's looking to buy a yacht. The other is representing the seller who has a yacht to sell. And if you meet somebody who has a yacht to sell, the central agency agreement will be absolutely fundamental to you because it protects your interest in selling that yacht. There are a lot of yachts for sale which have no central agency associated with them. And when that happens, there's total chaos. You imagine a yacht owner who has a yacht for sale and decides he doesn't want to give it to any one specific yacht broker. The result of that is that every yacht broker you can imagine, particularly the less scrupulous ones, find out about the yachts. They advertise it on their websites. They advertise it on Yacht World, which is a multiple listing system. Yachtco is a little bit more difficult because they insist on a central agency contract. But if you look at the yachtworld.com website, you will see thousands and thousands of yachts. And if you take, for example, a popular yacht like a Ferretti 80, sometimes it may appear that there's 20 of them for sale, whereas actually there's only two. But one of those two hasn't got a central agency contract. And so every yacht broker you can imagine is advertising it. Some have accurate information, some don't. Some know where it is, some don't. Some ask the correct asking price, some undercut it just to get more inquiries. And it creates total chaos. It's in the owner's best interests and in the yacht broker's best interests to have a central agency contract, because it disciplines the broker to do his job correctly, and it protects the owner from unscrupulous brokers asking the wrong price, giving out wrong information, so that actually a qualified buyer who wants to buy that boat walks away from it because he just can't get reliable information from anybody. Having said that, let me just talk you through the main points of a central agency contract. And I have to say that each yacht brokerage will have their own contract. They'll have paid a lawyer to put it together for them, but they'll all have these same basic principles. The first one, of course, is that when the yacht sells, the owner has to pay a commission to the broker. And as we discussed last week, the industry standard is a 10% commission on yachts under 10 million euro or $10 million in value. The second 10 million is subject to a 5% commission, and any increment of 10 million after that is subject to 2.5%. That's the industry standard. So if you were lucky enough to have a 20 million euro yacht and you got the full asking price, you'd get $1 million for the first 10, $500,000 for the second, so you get a 1.5 million euro commission. Sounds great. But if you're interested in more details on that, take a look at last week's live stream asking how much yacht brokers make, because it's not as simple as it may seem or as straightforward as it may seem. Now, in agreeing to that commission to the brokers, the seller also relinquishes his liability towards other yacht brokers, because more often than not, a yacht is sold when one broker has the buyer and another, the central agent, has the seller. So if other brokers are saying, hang on, I bought this client, hang on, that guy is my client, hang on, I sent him the specifications of this yacht last year, and that kind of thing happens all the time, the seller that's none of his business whatsoever. He doesn't need to worry about the other brokers, because it's the central agent who has to make sure that all of the other brokers are satisfied with their commission. That's his responsibility. And in my experience, you have to be fairly hard on that subject. When I have 2 or 3 brokers all working with the same client, I make it very clear to them that whoever brings him to the yacht and represents him in the offer and in the contract, they will get their share of the commission. The others are just opportunists, or unfortunately, they may be somebody that the client doesn't want to work with, and I am not going to pay commission to them. I'll pay somebody who really does represent the buyer. So that's the one big point on the central agency agreement. Working my way down, another important point is that the seller has to authorize the broker to be able to go on board the yacht with an appointment to show the yacht to potential buyers and to other yacht brokers. And the crew have to be very cooperative on that. And he has to instruct the crew and to say to his crew, this is my broker, work with him, cooperate with him. The cooperation of the crew is absolutely essential. Brokers need to know what the engine hours are, and they may have to keep asking that as the engine hours go up during the season, what the generators hours are. They'll need the captains to help to put together a technical specification. And the owner, in signing a central agency agreement, assures the broker that he will get that level of cooperation. He also has to allow the broker, of course, to distribute all of that information online through his website, through emails. So he has to have an element of trust in the broker that he's not going to be sending out pictures of the yacht willy-nilly without doing some sort of a qualification of the clients beforehand. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a very personal asset to many owners. And the other important factor of the central agency agreement is that it usually lasts pretty much indefinitely, but it can be cancelled after 1 year with 3 months notice. So it's up to the yacht broker in that year to really work hard, because it's not unusual for a yacht to be for sale for more than 1 year. And the broker during that time period has to be working hard, showing that he's bringing clients to the boat, showing that he's doing his part in advertising, promoting. I mean, one of the reasons that I started a YouTube channel was it was a great way to show a yacht owner that I was putting high quality material out there that was really attracting people. I could say, you know, in the case of some of the yachts, 1 million people have watched the video. It's resulted in all of these inquiries. Again, in my case, if you Google certain yacht models, I'm #1, page 1 of Google because of the success that the related videos have had. And that's always good to be able to say to an owner, look, if anybody is looking for a Mangusta 165, they're going to find your Mangusta 165 for sale before they find anybody else's. So it's up to me as a broker to do my part to promote the yacht. It's up to the yacht owner, of course, to make the yacht available and to give me the information that I need. And then hopefully if the yacht doesn't sell within that year, at least they'll know that everything possible is being done to get the yacht sold. There's one other thing I wanted to mention about the central agency agreement before we go on. Let me see if I can remember what that was. Oh yes, the other important point is, you know, with all the best will in the world, a lot of dodgy stuff goes on in most businesses, and where yacht brokerage is concerned, and the numbers can be very high, that's often the case. And as a broker, you don't want to be in a situation where a buyer goes directly to the owner of the yacht. So the owner of the yacht has to instruct the crew that if somebody walks up the dock and says, oh, I hear this yacht's for sale, you know, can you tell me about it? And all of a sudden, with the less scrupulous of captains, they suddenly think they're a broker, and they take on the inquiry themselves, go directly to their boss to try to look good to the boss, and all of a sudden the broker can be cut out. Well, with the central agency agreement, they're not allowed to do that. The captain is committed to tell the broker and to put any inquiries for the yachts to the yacht broker. People do get sometimes caught out that way, but it should be in black and white in the central agency agreement. So I said I'd keep it short this week because usually there's loads and loads of questions. I also said that the first question I was going to answer was from Gabriel. And so I'm going to scroll back up to his question. Oh, yes, that's right. Gabriel asks, a question from before that I also left at the comments of the video is regarding the controversy of working for percentage while on the side of the buyer. Could you quickly comment on that? Gabriel, if I understand your question correctly, you're asking whether there's a conflict of interest in taking a percentage if you're working for the buyer. But just to explain to you how it works, and as a matter of fact, I'm working at the moment with somebody who's looking to buy a yacht, and from the perspective of the buyer, he really doesn't have to pay for my services because I get paid from the commission from the seller. Now, if we buy a new yacht for him, then it's the shipyard that will pay me my commission. If we buy a brokerage yacht, then it's the owner of the yacht that will pay my commission. However, it's always important to be transparent, and there are times when a buyer will say, "Oh, how much are you making out of this then?" And you need to just be honest about it and tell them what you're making, and you may have to be a little bit flexible to make a deal happen. Having said that, I don't think you should ever undervalue what you're doing as a yacht broker. I mean, I'm not the most experienced broker in the world by any means. There are guys out there with a lot more experience than me, but nonetheless, the experience that I do have has been accumulated over almost 30 years now, certainly 26 years that I've been in the yachting industry, and it's allowed me to give really good insight into yachts that could be bought and how much they're worth and whether they're really worth looking at. So I hope that answers your question. If I've misunderstood your question, put it down again and I shall have another crack at answering it. Meanwhile, we've had a super chat. David Dillon, thank you so much. You're a regular attender and a regular super chatter, and I really appreciate it. Are NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, part of the standard agreement or an additional contract? They're an additional contract, a non-disclosure agreement, and in yacht sales, I think I've only had to sign them a couple of times because the standard purchase contract for a yacht does have a clause in it in which none of the people involved can disclose the price of the yacht. So I must be honest with you, that doesn't always get respected. In fact, unfortunately, there's a lot of talk in the industry when a yacht sells and little whispers about how much it's sold for, and it's impossible to know whether people are telling the truth or not. But they shouldn't be talking about it at all, because that is something which, as a standard agreement, should always be kept confidential. However, I have had to sign non-disclosure agreements separately where the owner, for whatever reason, didn't even want it to be announced to the industry that the yacht had been sold. I think I mentioned this before, maybe in the first ever live stream that I did. The first yacht that I ever sold was also the largest yacht I've ever sold by a long way. It was one of the largest yachts in the world, actually, at the time. Oh, it still is. It's certainly in the top 100. And I can't tell you what that yacht was because I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. The lawyer involved was a particularly nasty piece of work, to be perfectly honest with you. And he insisted that we do not announce that we'd sold that yacht. He didn't want the brokers to get any sort of benefit or capital out of the success. And it always annoyed me, it always irritated me, but I accepted it and I've respected the NDA. So I hope, David, that thoroughly answers your question. Moving on, Carlo Mandolini, hi from Ancona. Hi, Carlo. I was in Ancona yesterday. Nice to have somebody local. Let me work my way through. Oh, Rudy, I received the mug. I received the cup. I'll send you a photo just so that you all know. This is the mug to which Rudy is alluding. And if you find me on Instagram, which is instagram.com/yachts-for-sale-blog, and you direct message me a photo of you with the mug or in a t-shirt, so I'll be very, very happy to repost that in an Instagram story. I've had another super chat. Thank you very much, Rudy. Thanks, Rudy. He says, just for support, David, my questions are too out of focus. Thanks, Rudy. Very appreciate your support, and any question's good, even if it's out of focus. Always happy to answer if I possibly can. Working my way down. Gabriel again says, do you work with a fixed amount instead of a percentage? I have done, in exceptional circumstances. There was a buyer once from Australia who wanted to buy a yacht of very, very low value. And I don't want to sound snobbish in saying very low value, because I can't afford a yacht of any value at all, but I have to look at this as a business. And there comes a point where the percentage that you get for the commission is just not worth it for the work that you put into a yacht sale. And so this particular client was a very, very nice guy. And I said to him, look, I explained to him quite honestly what the problem was. And I said, but I realised that for you to fly regularly over to Europe from Australia to look at yachts is going to be very expensive. If you pay me a fixed fee plus my expenses, I'm happy to go shopping for yachts on your behalf. We did that. It worked very well for him. It worked very well for me. He ended up, getting a yacht that he liked. But on the whole, the industry works on a percentage basis. And even though I must say I am one of many, many yacht brokers who believe that the business model of yacht brokerage is not ideal and could be better, nonetheless, having percentages means that brokers are very, very motivated to find a buyer. And on the few brokerage companies I see where the brokers don't get paid a percentage are those that I see that are really not motivated at all to find buyers for their yachts. Working my way down, Jerry Boyar. Jerry from the Great Lakes from Ontario, Canada is back online to hear your overwhelming wisdom about yachts. Thank you, GB. Thank you very much, Jerry. I don't know about overwhelming wisdom, but it's a pleasure to be able to talk to you. Now, I had a really nice comment sent through to me telling me how to stop losing the comments because they scroll down. I've already forgotten what I'm supposed to do, but I'm just getting back to the comments because I lost them for a moment. I've had a comment that's been held for review from John Rogers. I think, John, the reason it was held for review and not published was because you put your email address on there and YouTube sort of take a dim view of that. You're looking for a Mangusta 165E or a 165. I have one for sale. Go on the northropandjohnson.com website, northropandjohnson.com. You'll see all of the yachts that we've got for sale there. You'll also find my email address, david.seal@northropandjohnson.com. Happy to tell you about that Mangusta. I should say to all of the viewers who are interested in buying yachts, I always go through a process of due diligence on any potential buyer. Don't get offended by that. It's just something I do with everybody, and it's as you know, if you bought assets of a certain value, that's quite a normal process. Martigan UK, good to see you again. I see the nose is looking better. Thank you very much, but you do look a little pink being out in the sun again. I'm trying to avoid the sun as much as I can. But yes, thanks. I went to see the doctor this morning. He's put a much smaller bandage on this time. I'm having the last stitches taken out, hopefully on Wednesday. And after that, I'll be left with no bandage, but somewhat of a scar on my nose, which I'm sure with time will start to fade. Michael, just before I take Michael's question, there's another super chat. Thank you very much. David Dillon, thank you again, David. First, nose is appearing better. Hope it is. Second, how many times do you actually talk to the real customer? Or do you usually talk to agents such as trust fund trustees, personal assistants? Oh, that shows a lot of insight, actually, David, that question, because that is one of the biggest challenges with the business. I have clients who I talk to directly, and I have clients who I always talk through either their PA or one of their directors or their captain. And I can tell you it's far, far, far easier to talk to the clients directly. It's so much easier. There's no comparison. I mean, some of the representatives of the owners are in fact, usually they're very, very nice people to work with and good and efficient. That's not the problem. The problem is that there's sometimes when you could do without that filter. You could do with being able to look into the eye of the client, visit them, talk to them. At the end of the day, the yacht brokerage is about building relationships with people. It's a relationships business. And if you always have to go through an agent or another person, of course, it's more difficult to build that relationship. However, you have to kind of take a pragmatic view of it. I have certain clients who just they're too busy. This is just the way they do business. They have people who do everything for them and they just don't want to talk to me. And that's fine. I'd rather have their business than not have it. It just makes it a little bit more different, a little bit more difficult to give them the best service that I possibly can. And just so I can give you a thorough answer because of your super chat, he says, such as trust fund trustees, personal assistants. Personal assistance is sometimes the case. Often it's a director in their company. They often just have a relationship of trust with one particular director for whatever reason, and that's the person that I need to speak to. Often as well, it can be the yacht captain, and those are the two characters that normally come into play. Not so much trust funds, although we do deal with trust funds. I'm not currently dealing with any trust fund, but I have done in the past. Trust funds can be really quite complex because when you get to the point that you're selling a yacht and there's a trust fund involved, it's normally not just one person, but a whole board of directors that are then worried about every decision they make, and everything has to be signed off multiple times. And to get a yacht sold, sometimes you need a quick answer to stuff and not having to deal with the board of directors every single time. Working my way down. Gabriel again, Gabriel Soanos. What happens if an owner has a central agency agreement? The broker isn't very active and himself finds someone to buy the yacht. No dodgy situation. It really depends. It really depends because that happens from time to time. It happens often that the broker isn't as active as they should be. And I always say to people, and let me just take off my Northrop and Johnson corporate hat, because as I think most of you know, I represent Northrop and Johnson in my brokerage business. There are a lot of very good brokerage companies out there, Camper and Nicholson's, Northrop and Johnson, Fraser's, and on and on and on. And in my opinion, you shouldn't, if you're selling a yacht, you shouldn't choose the company, you should choose the broker, because you can have a lousy broker working with a great brokerage company, or you can have a great broker working with a great brokerage company. And what you want is to get the great broker with a great brokerage company. Don't just think because you're giving the yacht to Northrop and Johnson or to Campers or whatever, that you're necessarily going to get the very best person for the job. You need to also choose the broker with some intelligence and with some direction. I think I saw another super chat, but I didn't. I was sure I saw one. Sometimes it flashes up on the camera on my cell phone before I see it down here. Oh no, sorry, I did. There is one. It's Michael. I don't know if I pronounce your name Berger or Berger. I'm going to go with Berger, Michael. You can correct me in the chat if I'm incorrect. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Are there any lenders that consider charter income? So, are you saying if you're going to borrow money to buy the yachts, whether charter income would be considered on the part of the lender? I'm not an expert in the subject of financing yachts, because I always send my clients who are looking to finance yachts to a specialist. Actually, I know a couple of people who are very, very good at yacht finance. My gut feeling, though, is that if I were to buy a yacht that already has a charter history, I'm pretty sure that the lender would look at that favourably. I have at the moment a yacht for sale called Veni Vidi Vici, which is a Mangusta 130. It's got a great charter record, a great charter crew. In spite of the lockdown, they still have a charter booked for August for that year. And I would imagine if somebody were looking at buying it and they were looking at financing it, surely the lender would look favourably upon the fact that it has guaranteed income already coming in. Hope that was a suitably thorough answer for you. David Dillon, thanks again for the super chat, David. Very, very much appreciated. Last question. Doesn't have to be your last question. You can ask more if you want. I was watching Tristan's channel. For those that you don't know, Tristan, super yacht captain, fantastic channel. If you're not subscribed, you should. So you're watching Tristan's channel, and this question is based upon something he always says. When you sell the yacht, do you negotiate in the contract for the crew? So the crew are dealt with entirely separately from the yacht for a number of reasons. When a yacht is sold, the crew all have to sign disclaimers to say that they're paid up to date and they're owed nothing, because crew actually have a lot of power over the yacht. If you sell a yacht, excuse me one moment, if you sell a yacht and the crew are owed money by the owner, they can actually sequester the yacht. They can actually have it chained to the dock until they get their pay. So it's really important that the buyer of the yacht knows for sure that the crew aren't owed any money. And in fact, they have to sign to say that. That's one thing. But I think maybe you also want to know whether the crew go with the yacht. And that's entirely up to the crew. I know that Tristan, for example, has a fantastic relationship with his boss. So, and also I know that his boss is talking about maybe getting another larger yacht or maybe a different type of yacht. And because of the relationship Tristan's got with him, if I had to guess, I would say he'd probably rather stay with the boss rather than with the yacht. However, when he does that, his contract with his boss will be severed and terminated. He will have to sign off. The name of his yacht is AWOL. So he will have to sign off to say that the boss doesn't owe him any money for AWOL. And then he'll enter into a new contract with his boss for the new yacht. If he were to stay with the yacht, he'd just have to sign up a new contract with the new owner. But either way, there's a termination, there's a severance of one contract and the starting of another contract. I hope that answered the question thoroughly. If it didn't, do just leave another comment and I'll be glad to go into more detail. Rob Saunders asks the question, what's the average length of time it takes to sell a yacht, say 40 metre plus? It varies enormously, but if I had to guess, I would say over 40 metres, most yachts are on the market for at least a year. I would say a year and 2 months, a year and 3 months. I know that other brokers are going to say, oh, we sell them much quicker than that, within 3 months, so within 6 months. It'd be interesting to know the statistics on that, and I'm sure they exist somewhere. And I'm sure as well that yacht brokerage like to compete with each other to show how quickly they can get yachts sold. But, you know, in the 40 metre plus market, it does take time to get a yacht sold. Yeah, that's hopefully a sufficiently thorough answer for you. Thomas Falsey says, why would a buyer engage a broker within the same firm that has the CA? How would a buyer get assurance that she is getting the very best economic representation? Well, the central agent is the firm. So in my case, the firm is Northrop & Johnson, and the central agency agreement is with Northrop & Johnson. It's not with me. However, I would be the guy bringing that business into Northrop & Johnson, so I would be the broker representing Northrop & Johnson for that central agency. With regards to how a buyer gets assurance that he or she is getting the very best economic representation, it's a good question. And what would normally happen is that I would make certain guarantees written within the central agency contract. So again, going back to the fact that I have a YouTube channel, my walkthrough videos are the biggest hook, if you like, that draws people into using me as a broker and to using Northrop and Johnson. So therefore, it has to be written into the central agency contract that I will organise and pay for a walkthrough video, and that can include sometimes I have to pay for a helicopter, to do a proper shoot. I pay for the editing to be done. I pay for everything, and that's in the central agency contract. Some clients want us also to guarantee a page of advertising in Boat International or some other yacht magazine. I always refuse to do that, not because I think, not because I don't want to spend the money, although that's partially the reason, to be totally honest, but because I believe that print advertising to sell a yacht is a total waste of money. These days, people are not looking through magazines to buy a yacht. They're looking online. Everybody's looking online. You need to be online. So I've kind of gone off on a tangent a little bit from what your question was, but yeah, really, it's in that central agency contract that we have to negotiate, and I have to give you the guarantees that I will make certain investments in order to get the yacht sold. Just as a little feather in my cap on that one of the largest central agency contracts that we have at Northrop and Johnson is the 72-meter yacht Solo, and one of the conditions of that central agency was that the owner would have me do a walkthrough video of the yacht, which we did. I had to be flown over to the Caribbean to do it with my team. But it's a yacht with a very, very high value, and certainly it was well worth the investment on our part to get that business. And in fact, the video is very popular. It's been very useful as a sales tool. Moving down the just want to make sure I haven't missed any super chats, because I'd feel awful if you sent me a super chat and I didn't answer the question, but I don't think I have. Sir Valiant the Third says, please excuse my silly username. It's not a silly username, it's a fine username. I like it. Just wanted to say thanks for providing all this wonderful info to us for free. It's not for free, you got to send me a super chat. No, I'm joking. That's he says, you rock, brother. Glad I got to catch you live. Thank you very much, Sir Valiant. Much appreciated. Actually, today I was on this subject of providing it all for free. I do provide it for free, and I was joking about that. So about that comment, but because I've got a lot of stuff going on at the moment in the channel, I was reflecting on the fact that I have so many sponsors now, and things are moving ahead so well that really the videos are for free for me. I mean, I've been able to get to a point where I have sponsors who are very happy with the value for money that they're getting in the videos that I do, which enables me to produce more content, which is great, I hope, for you guys, and it's great for me as well. Another super chat from Rudy. Thank you very much, Rudy. I appreciate it, and I appreciate as well what a faithful viewer you are in terms of always being here for the live chats. Rudy, you asked the question, you say a silly question for you. There are no silly questions. Well, there may be some silly questions, but I'm sure this is not going to be one. What is a good owner for the crew? Apart from a good salary and a good boat, someone distant, a family, a friend. This is something I've discussed at length with a lot of yacht captains. Of course, a good salary is a part of it, but also some degree of understanding. Most captains and crew that I work with actually care very deeply about the yachts that they work on. They really, really do. So apart from the good salary, it's also a good budget to be able to look after the yacht properly. You may not believe this if you're not in the yachting industry, but I've spoken, let me just adjust the camera a little bit. I've spoken to numerous captains, and you'd be surprised sometimes on what large yachts they've worked, where they don't even get a proper budget as even for cleaning equipment. And it's disgraceful, it really, really is. There's certain sort of owners who just skimp on everything, and sometimes on very, very large yachts. I know of one captain very well who ended up putting his hand in his own pocket to buy cleaning equipment, And I said to him that you leave the yacht. The time that you're having to do that is a time that it's time to call it a day and get off of that yacht. So a good owner will give a proper budget to the crew to look after the yacht. He will give a good degree of discretion for them to be able to spend that budget. So up to a certain amount, if something breaks, the captain needs to be able to just buy a new piece or order a new part or do whatever it takes to get it fixed without every time having to ask the owner, because it's awkward if the owner is a very, very busy person. I almost said a busy man now, and that upsets so many viewers. They go, oh, there's women that own yachts as well. There are. Not many, though, I have to say. Anyway, the busy person that owns the yacht doesn't want to be disturbed every 5 minutes to be asked for more money to fix a pump or to book some specialist to fix a certain part on the yacht. So a good owner will have a good level of trust in his crew. He'll give them a good budget to be able to look after it. A good owner will respect the crew, of course. There are some horrific stories of just the worst kind of yacht owner, who, by the way, is just the worst kind of human being. Nothing, being a yacht owner has nothing to do with it, but just the worst kind of yacht owner who showed gross disrespect to the crew. And, of course, that makes it very difficult for the crew to work, especially female crew. They can become, extremely distressed and worried and even scared by bad owners. I have to say that those stories, though, are few and far between. My experience that I had of yacht owners is that most of them are very nice people, very decent people. They want the crew to be happy. And the problem is not as big as you may think it is. If you're outside of the industry, the vast majority of the yacht owners are really interesting people and very respectful people too. Annie Rhodes, thanks for joining us, Annie, one of the very, very few female viewers. I regularly look at my statistics and I think I'm at 96% male viewers, not too many females. Annie Rhodes says, any chance you'll do a walkthrough of the Palmer Johnson Kalila, David? Not at the moment, Annie, because first of all, because it's not a yacht that I represent for sale, and generally speaking, other brokers want me doing videos of their yachts. I do have some good connections with that yacht, and I'd love to do a video of it because it is just one of the believe that if I was to do a video of it, it would break the internet to be able to step in it. It's just such a spectacular yacht, and the more spectacular yachts do tend to get more views than the less spectacular ones. Judas Tamad, Sir David, how yacht transport from Europe to the Philippines? Do you recognise DYT? I do, yep. Dockwise Yacht Transport Company. How long does it take before arrival on Philippine port? Judas, I'm the wrong person to ask about that. I've used Dockwise, DYT, only ever for taking boats to the States. I don't know where all of their routes go. I don't know how long it takes to get to the Philippines. I'm not much use to you, I'm afraid, Judas, on this. What I tend to do, because it takes a fair amount of time to find out all of these details, where their routes are, which shipping companies go, how much they cost, I'll usually only get into that kind of thing if I've sold a yacht or I'm in the process of selling a yacht and the owner wants to take it to the Philippines. Then I do my research, I find out who goes there, who doesn't, and I do everything I can to help the owner to get it on board. But beyond that, I'm afraid, Judas, I can't help you, I'm afraid. Rudy again. Thanks, Rudy. I saw an ignoble owner, a TV show near the ice floe, who kept the crew in summer clothes waiting. I've heard about this, and not a thank you for these people. It shocked me a little. I know. And one of the problems, Rudy, is that crew are often worried that if they walk out on something like that, they may not be able to get another job because it's a very competitive industry. There's not maybe so much for more experienced crew because they gain a reputation and they get their network of people in the industry. Somebody like Tristan, super yacht captain, for example, if heaven forbid something would happen that he no longer had the job on AWOL, or that he'd get snapped up in a heartbeat by somebody else. But that's not the case for all crew, and so sometimes they are abused, and that's what that is. That's abuse. And in my opinion, they should just walk off the yacht. They should give some sort of a notice. It's an unenviable situation to get in, because if you're there and you walk off, you might not even be given a flight back home. That's a tough one. It's a real tough one. Patrick, great to hear from you, Patrick Abbas. Hi, Dave. Sorry for coming in late. I was just too busy. Absolute no problem. Great to see you again, Patrick. You sent me a photograph of your Yachts for Sale mug. Quick reminder that these exist. And I didn't put it on Instagram. I apologize for that. I'm going to find it and I'm going to make an Instagram story of that. And also somebody else who left a comment saying that they're going to do the same thing. Looking better, I see. Good news from Monaco Yacht Show. I heard it was going to happen. Thanks for bringing that up, because here's what the situation is on Monaco Yacht Show. And I can tell you with some degree of certainty on this. So Monaco Yacht Show is run by a huge company called Informa. Informa are an events company on a global scale. I'm pretty sure they're a publicly listed company. That's how big they are. As you can imagine, with the lockdown going on all over the world, it's been a disaster for their company. A real disaster to be in the events business right now. So they wanted to carry on with the Monaco Yacht Show, and they have every intention of carrying on with the Monaco Yacht Show. However, the exhibitors are of a different opinion. And there are two bodies that are very important amongst those exhibitors. One is called Libra, which is the Large Yacht Brokers Association. Northrop and Johnson, Burgess, Fraser's, all of the big brokerage companies make up part of Libra. And they've said, we'd rather not do it this year. We don't think it's a good idea. We don't know what the world's going to look like this year when the show's on. We suspect people won't want to be in large crowds. People won't want to fly in. We're out. Seabass is the other big organisation, and Seabass is all of the large yacht builders, Larsen, Bonetti, Ferretti Group, and on and on and on. And they're the other big entity in the exhibitors. And they also have said to Informa, we will not be at Monaco Yacht Show this year. And actually, because over the years there's been some friction between Libra, Seabass, and Informa, they're also appealing to Informa to please take on board the comments and the observations they've been making over the years, so that they can improve the relationship with Informa for future Monaco Yacht Shows. I hope I'm not boring anybody with this, but you did tune into my live stream, so maybe you'll find this interesting. So where we're at right now is that Libra and Seabass, which is the vast majority of the exhibitors, won't be at the show. Informa, however, still want to hold the show, but they're holding it as a non-for-profit. So I don't know exactly what that means, except for obviously they're not going to make a profit out of it, but at least they'll hold their place as the organisers of the Monaco Yacht Show. I can tell you this, Patrick, I personally have no intention of going to Monaco Yacht Show this year, and it'll be the first time in over 15 years that I don't go. But to me, it just makes no sense at all to go if the big exhibitors are not going to be there. So it'll be an interesting one this year. We'll have to see what happens. Oh my goodness, Skippy says, I watched the original Kalila Palmer Johnson limp into Toulon years ago on her maiden trip from Palma to France. Her hull plates were cracked around the propellers due to excessive vibration. My word, that sounds awful. And I'm sorry to hear that, and I hope that that's been corrected, Skippy. Erin thought, only the nose knows. That's very funny, actually. If I had a little emoji to put up here, I'd put one of those laughing emojis with tears coming out of the eyes. Those of you who don't know, I've had an operation on my nose. This week's looking a lot better than last week when there was a much bigger bandage. Next week, I should have just a scar, just a scar there, which I'm sure will fade over time. Patrick, again, Sorry, before I do you, Patrick, Judas, Sir David, the DYT company only board and dock Hong Kong channel, but upon arriving in Hong Kong, does the yacht is capable to travel from Hong Kong to the Philippines? I don't think so for some small yacht. The Having thought about your question a little bit more, the only time I was ever involved with yacht transport to Philippines, I was working for Ferretti, but we're talking 20 years or more ago, and we shipped the yacht direct to the Philippines. So there are shipping routes for sure, and you put the yacht on as deck cargo, and obviously you protect it as best you can, and it gets lifted and lowered from the cargo ship. So I think probably dockwise would not be the best option for the Philippines. You probably have to ship it by ship. Patrick, you'll be at the Cannes show then, I presume. I think probably yes. But because this year's so different, I haven't made my mind up yet. However, as I'm sure you know, I'm doing a lot of work in videos with Hans Steiger, who are building that amazing trimaran in Spain. And I know that they want to be there at the Cannes show with it. Also, this week I revisited Silent Yachts to put into motion the wheels to do the second in the documentary video following Silent Yachts, and Cannes important for them too. So in all likelihood, if there is a Cannes show, 99% sure I will be there. Philemon Cassette. What a very, very nice message, Philemon. Thank you very much. Hello, David. You inspire us a lot. Watching from East Africa, Eritrea, with magnificent coastal area. One day we'll be fortunate enough to come to buy from you. I would love that. I really would, Philemon. Thank you very much. You look after yourself there. Unfortunately, somebody just called me, and I forgot to put set my phone on silent mode. So I don't know what that looked like for you guys, if the screen just went black there for a moment. Gabriel Zoanos, maybe bring a collaboration with a lawyer. The brokers ask for a one-stop shop, lawyer, captain, crew, broker, etc. Do buyers ask? No, not really. Buyers don't ask for a one-stop shop. Some buyers have their own lawyer. I have a selection of lawyers who I'm very happy to work with, and I'm very happy to recommend to the owner. There are some lawyers which I will strongly advise against an owner use. And as a matter of fact, on one particular deal, we didn't go ahead with the deal because I refused to deal with that particular lawyer. And my client took my advice. But that's quite an unusual situation. There's just a couple out there who are just so awful, I refuse to deal with them. But by and large, most lawyers are very good, and I have some. As a matter of fact, I recently sold the Ferretti 960 Maisu 2, and I used James Jaffa, who is a very, very good marine lawyer. And I'm trying to remember, the buyer was from Greece, and he used a Greek lawyer, and I wish I could remember his name because he was very, very good. It was one of the most smooth possible deals because the lawyers were fantastic. So, but I'm going off at a tangent from your question. No, rarely do they ask for a one-stop shop, in my experience. Judas, think you know the owner of a particular yacht? I've got to be honest with you, I don't know who that person is, but I never ever talk about the names of owners, because it's just one of the things with brokerage is you have to maintain a great level of confidentiality. So unless there's something extremely well known, like Abramovich owning his yachts, I shy away from talking about who the owners of yachts are. Martigan UK, any news from Wider Yachts? I spoke to them last week because I want to get back into doing the videos called the Wider Report, where I visit them. They're active. Of course, they've suffered a lot from the lockdown, just as everybody else has. They have a whole selection of new projects and new builds. A 180 is probably the most exciting one that they're coming up with at the moment. I hope to give you more concrete news from that in the near future, but for the time being, that's really all I can tell you about. Just make sure I haven't missed any super chats. I don't think I have. Svetlin Karazov, can you tell us more on negotiating a central agency? Any terms changes? How do you justify your commission? With regards to the terms changes, sometimes a central agency yacht, the client will ask us to just do a 3 months central agency or a 6 months. I never agree to that, to be perfectly honest, because it takes some time to just get the wheels in motion. And more than anything, if you're a serious central agent, you'll put a certain amount of investment into the marketing of the yacht. And I don't want to make all of that investment if then the owner, after 3 months, gives the central agency to somebody else. I'm happy to put an investment of my time and my cash and Northrop and Johnson's cash and all of my expertise into getting the yacht sold if the owner is willing to give me a reasonable amount of time to get the yacht sold. With regard to justifying the commission, I understand that 10% may look like a lot, and it is a lot. Let's face it, it is a lot when you're talking about the price of a yacht. However, if you watched last week's video where I show how much is actually made, first of all, I need a full 10% to be able to motivate other yacht brokers from other brokerage companies to bring their clients to my yacht. And what tends to happen, if I've got a yacht for sale, let's say I've got a €7 million San Lorenzo for sale, and it's lying in Antibes, and a broker from Edmiston or Fraser's or one of the many, many little brokerage companies or YPI or an independent broker calls me and they say, I've got a client who wants that model of San Lorenzo. Where can I come and see it? Can you send me the technical details? And I send it. And then they say, you do have 10%, don't you? And it's a question that gets asked all the time because we're in business and other yacht brokers want to make money as well, of course. If I say I don't, then you know what they're going to do? They're going to go and see another yacht. They're going to go first to the place where they can make money, and then only as a last resort come back to me. So it's not in the owner's interests, it's not in the seller's interests to offer less than 10%, because unfortunately the brokerage community won't be motivated to push that yacht. Now, it's a different thing once you have an offer on the table. If you have an offer on the table and the owner's negotiating and the buyer's negotiating, as a broker, you have to be prepared to show some flexibility on your commission to make the deal work. It's all about everybody working to make sure that a deal can actually happen. But if you start with the central agency agreement that's less than 10%, unfortunately, the way it is other brokers just won't bring their clients. Telling it the way it is on Yachts for Sale live streams, broker talk. Working my way down, and in a few moments we'll have to call it a day. Rune Liatet. I'm sure. One thing I do know is that I mispronounced your surname. I apologize for that. Have there ever been owners who designed the layout of their yacht themselves? Lots and lots and lots, but not usually with smaller yachts, but with fully custom yachts, the kind of thing that Lurson, Ocean Co, Benetti are building. Then they're almost all designed by the owner together with the designer. You have to work within parameters of what is going to be a seaworthy vessel, but with the larger yachts, they've almost all been designed by the owner with the help of a designer. Gabriel Zoanos, collaboration with a lawyer had to do with offshore jurisdictions, yacht registration, etc. as a future video. Yeah, do you know what? One of the interesting things with YouTube is stuff that I think will bore the pants off of everybody. Sometimes it's the very video that most people want to see. So maybe I should look at doing that. And the whole question of offshore jurisdictions is incredibly complex, in part because it changes all the time, because different countries can introduce new laws whenever they want to. So it's a highly complex field. I think rather than doing a video on it, which with time could become incorrect and out of date, it would be very interesting to do a live stream with people who deal with that. Maybe I should do a live stream one day with a yacht lawyer. Maybe I should do it with James Jaffa, who helped me with the Mysu 2 deal, and you can ask him whatever questions you want. I won't understand the answer, I'm sure, but he will know what the answer is. If not James, another good qualified lawyer. Judas Tamad asks, what are the requirements to purchase a yacht aside from money? Well, money obviously is the big one. As yacht brokers, we have to be sure as well that the person is not a wanted terrorist or a money launderer, is not blacklisted. That's becoming an increasingly big requirements. But what are the requirements apart from money? Money is the only one I can think of right now. But legal money, legally come by money, and not getting seasick, I suppose. Those are the requirements. I feel like I should be able to think of another answer to that question, but that's the only one I can think of. Martingan UK, I hope you consider keeping these live chats after lockdown. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd like to keep it a regular feature. After being a follower for a while, it's nice to have the interaction. It's nice for me as well, actually. I really do enjoy these live chats. I hope to keep them every Friday evening as far as is possible. I may have to be a little bit flexible on that, but certainly I'm enjoying them, and it's going to be a regular feature. You may not have been here towards the beginning of the video where I said that I think next week we'll have a live chat, and I'll start by talking about the purchase contract. It's called the Memorandum of Agreement to buy a yacht, and I'll just give you a little bit of information about that before we go into the chat. But then after that, in all likelihood, I'm going to be in Monaco, and I'd very much like to introduce to the live stream a young and very successful broker, so that those watching this who'd like to become brokers can ask him about how he got started, what the challenges were, and it'll just bring a bit of a different perspective. So that's my plan in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Svetlin, thank you very much. Gabriel, that's why we love you saying things as they are, no matter what. Yeah, I try to be diplomatic, but I'm not always. Rune Leata says, haha, yes, that's not how you pronounce it, but thanks for answering my questions. I'm sure I made an even worse job the second time round than the first. Larry says, thank you, David, that was great. I have to go now. So do I, Larry, so thanks very much for listening. And the very last one, Bartolome Garcia. Do you also work with or help owners on the building yacht process? You know what, I do, and it's the part of the job that I love the most. And unfortunately, the opportunity doesn't come along anywhere near as often as I would like. Also, especially since I've worked for yacht builders extensively, so I've got a lot to bring to the party in that part of the deal. But don't, as I say, don't always get the opportunity to do it. Michael Berger, what's your beer of choice this evening? You're absolutely right. If you remember last week, I said something I really started to enjoy is that at the end of the live stream, probably because I talk so much, I'm absolutely bursting for a beer. And so actually today I went to the supermarket and got some beer, and my beer of choice is Beck's. Beck's is my beer of choice. Funnily enough, I'm pretty sure it was my daughter, but it may have been one of my sons. When they were very little at school, they had to draw a picture of either their mum or their dad, and they drew a picture of me, and they drew a picture of me with a bottle of Beck's, and it even said Beck's on the label. So I kind of wondered what the teachers would think of that when they saw it. And as they say on Top Gear, on that bombshell, I'll end the live stream for this week. Thank you so much for all your comments. It's been an absolute blast. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll be here again next week without the bandage, I hope, and back to normal again. So once again, thank you, and I'll